On Newsnight tonight, there is a new anti-LGBTQ bill, and its lead sponsor, Reverend Tim Fojo, is mounting a strong defense of his decision to reintroduce the controversial bill in Parliament.
We will pass this. We would submit it to the President, present it to him for his assent.
We'll get some more details, plus Speaker refers nomination of Chief Justice nominee to Appointments Committee.
I trust that Parliament will expedite the approval process in accordance with constitutional requirements. Please accept, Mr. Speaker, the assurances of my highest regard.
Also tonight, the push for a revolutionary shift in judicial accountability, with demands for cases of judicial misconduct to be decided by ordinary citizens and not judges.
If your Chief Justice does this particular type of thing, would you still have confidence in her as the person to lead the justice system? And for me, we should make all of those people lay people.
We hear from renowned lawyer Thaddeus Sory, but is former Attorney General Godfred Dame living in his head rent-free?
He lives in my mind rent-free. Indeed. He's my junior one. Why would I...
Does he though?
Yeah?
Does he live in your mind rent-free?
God forbid that. Better things in my mind. I don't wake up to think about any lawyer. That's less him. Why would I be occupied with Godfred?
And in business, government overall budget deficits stood at 1.4% of GDP in first 7 months of 2025. We have details from a Bank of Ghana report.
And in sports, the UEFA Champions League continues tonight with Arsenal hosting Atletico Madrid.
Want to stay with us? I'm also expecting to hear from you. 05511119997. Also later, government to strictly enforce weight limits for heavy-duty trucks as President Mahama raises concerns over the rapid destruction of roads caused by overloaded trucks.
There are trucks in this country that load 120 tons when the maximum load is supposed to be 50 tons. There's no road you can construct that will stand 20 tons per truck.
And the National Science and Maths Quiz tonight, the Aburi Girls SHS shines as the thrash St. Mary's Seminary and Dormaa with an impressive win. You want to stay with us for all that, plus your comments here on Newsnight. And let's start in Parliament, because Parliament is back today and already there's a new anti-LGBTQ bill before Parliament. And its new lead sponsor, Reverend John Tim Fojo, is tonight defending its reintroduction of this very controversial bill. The bill is expected to be laid in Parliament this week. The bill, which divided public opinion, was passed in the last Parliament but was not signed into law by the then President Akufo-Addo. Now, Reverend Tim Fojo, who is co-sponsoring the bill with 9 other MPs, including Communications Minister Sam George, says the bill must be passed.
We will pass this. We would submit it to the President, present it to him for his assent, and he can also, even in the course of the process, whether before it is passed or after it is passed, if he so thinks that he even needs to introduce some more robust legislation to serve the larger purpose of preserving the values of Ghana, preserving the values of society, and augmenting on the binary nature of gender, that gender, any person is born a boy or a girl, and that's when you are to marry. Marriage is between a man and a woman. Those basic principles, and any such propagation and advocacies and those that seek to even make lesbianism, LGBT, and all its allies and dimensions more attractive, totally misleading young people and leading them astray. Any legislation that will cure that is further welcomed, but that will not come to replace the importance and necessity of this bill. If the President was so committed to introducing government-sponsored bill, this is the 11th month. There have been many, leading to about 100 bills that have been brought to this House, and we have passed. Some were even brought in midnight. We stayed here midnight and passed them under certificate of urgency. So if this bill was that important to him, and indeed is not mere rhetorics, and it's something he's committed to, we would have introduced this government-sponsored bill. He has said it time and time again. Has he brought it? So let him bring it. But he bringing it, we will all support when President Mahama brings a government-sponsored bill to the stature of the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill. We will all support, but that will not take away the importance that this bill is going to serve. So let all support, let's pass it. As and when President Mahama wants to introduce his government-sponsored bill, we will support that legislation as well to come and even support and reinforce what we have begun.
I want to bring in Parliamentary Correspondent Kwaku Asante, who joins me on the Zoom right now. Kwaku, this bill was listed, from what I understand, on the order paper today. Why was it not laid? Hello, Kwaku, can you hear me?
The understanding we had today was that this was such an important bill that the sponsors wanted to transact. And in fact, they were talking to us and giving us indications that this will be taken. In fact, the Speaker himself, Alban Bagbin, was in the chair, and that was expected to be done. However, it wasn't done at the time. The House took an adjournment. But the indication we are getting is that this has the full blessing of the Speaker, just like it did in the last Parliament. And then as soon as the end of this week, at least the first reading will be made. It will be referred to the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee to work on it. Parliament does not expect such a big work on this because the bill that was passed last Parliament, but wasn't signed. And so the sponsors have literally picked the same bill and brought it back to Parliament for another. And so it is not expected to take a long time in committee for it to come. As long as there's a political will by the sponsors, and if there are no bottlenecks like the other bill faced, the understanding is that they expect that this bill will be passed within this meeting that will end by December, by Christmas, this meeting.
Well, in the last Parliament, Sam George, who is currently the Communications Minister, he was a lead voice on this particular bill. Is he still?
Yes, Evans, if you look at the list of sponsors, he's number 2 on it. It would appear because he's a cabinet minister, he has taken a bit of a backseat for Reverend Tim Fojo to lead the crusade on this. And then because of that, if you look at the sponsors of the bill, Reverend John Tim Fojo is number 1 on the list. Samuel Nate George, the MP for Ningo Pram and Communications Minister, is number 2. Emmanuel Kwesi-Bejra, Honorable Helen Adjuan-Toso, Nuruddin Mohammed Mumuni, Vincent Kwasefua, Alassane Tampuli, Rita Na Odole Sowa, Dr. Abdul Kabir Mahama, Anthony Mie. So if you look at the numbers, it is 6 on the majority side, 4 on the minority side, 6 on the NPP side, and 4 on the NDC side that are coming together to sponsor this. And Sam George is still leading these efforts.
Also in Parliament today, on the first day back from recess, we know that the Chief Justice, who's recently been removed, Gertrude Torkornoo, has filed processes in court seeking to stop the vetting process that we anticipate now will be scheduled pretty shortly of the acting CJ, Justice Baffoe-Bonnie. That appears to have not stopped the Speaker of Parliament from referring it to the committee responsible for appointments.
Yes, Evans, in fact, not at all. The first order of business in the House today was the matters having to do with the swearing in of those 2 new MPs. Once that was done, the Speaker of Parliament proceeded to read that letter from the President. This week, at the start of this week, we got an indication that the Council of State had given the President the all clear, the blessing literally, to go ahead and nominate Baffoe-Bonnie to become the next Chief Justice. The President has done that and has written to the Speaker of Parliament. This has subsequently been communicated. And everyone, before we listen to the Speaker of Parliament, subsequently we heard from the minority leader who was briefly talking about how he thought that because certain matters were in court, these nominations should not have come. He sort of back those statements and said that, well, we haven't gotten there yet. But the Speaker has made that referral. Listen to the Speaker of Parliament reading that letter from the President nominating Baffoe-Bonnie to become the next Chief Justice.
The letter is dated 7th October 2025, and it reads, Right Honorable Speaker, nomination of Chief Justice. Following consultations with the Council of State, conveyed by its letter dated 14th October 2025, and in accordance with Article 144, Clause 1 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, I have the honor to respectfully submit for the approval of Parliament the nomination of Justice Paul Baffoe-Bonnie as Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Justice Baffoe-Bonnie has distinguished himself through unwavering integrity, sound judicial temperament, and a deep commitment to the rule of law. His long and meritorious service on the Supreme Court has been characterized by professionalism, fairness, and a passion for justice. He possesses the necessary leadership, administrative competence, and vision to advance ongoing reforms within Ghana's justice system and to further strengthen public confidence in the judiciary. Attached are the nominees' curriculum vitae and supporting documents to facilitate the vetting process. I trust that Parliament will expedite the approval process in accordance with constitutional requirements. Please accept, Mr. Speaker, the assurances of my highest regard. John Mahama.
From every indication, this now is within the domain of the Appointments Committee. They'll have to consider it, and we're expecting that a date will be set for the vetting itself to happen. But as you know, the Chief Justice who's just been removed, Kwaku has a case before the court, asking the court to indeed grant her relief that would stop the consideration of Baffoe-Bonnie as the next Chief Justice. And can they really proceed with this case still pending before the court? I want to bring in Vincent Ekosafo, who also happens to be one of the sponsors of the LGBTQ bill, is MP for Otafo. Let me start with the subject of the LGBTQ bill, which is currently a subject of a relaying before Parliament. Eko, thanks for your time here on Newsnight. I wonder, this is a new bill, although yes, it went through the processes, was passed in the last Parliament, it didn't get the presidential assent. Do you still, now that you are in opposition, and we've heard that Intim Fojo is now the lead sponsor, do you sense that you have the support of your majority colleagues?
Consistency matters. If you get the opportunity to know my stance on this LGBTQ bill, you realize that I have been very consistent, especially with all the interviews that I have done on the multimedia, even when I was nominated as a deputy minister for local government. I remember that it was one of the topical issues that I had to deal with on the appointment committee. And I remember I was asked about my stance on it, and I did not hesitate, even at the time that we were in government, that it's a bill that needs to be passed. It is important to be passed because it will protect the traditional values of this country. It will protect the cultural values of this country, because we believe that we are getting into an era where, as a Ghanaian, a proud one, of course, we need to protect the traditional values and cultural values of this country. So there's so much consistency. Rather, the fear is that we might not have the commitment of the opposition, the governing party now, then opposition, as to how they made the argument, as to how they were supporting this bill, because you could clearly see that with the kind of commitment, with the kind of argument that they made when they were in opposition, they could have passed this bill by way of a certificate of urgency. But they have not shown that commitment. Be that as it may, it is late, better late than never. Let us see how it goes. But we are committed in making sure that this bill is passed.
Yeah, I mean, and just give me your thoughts on how you anticipate this process to pan out. Yes, it was passed. It went through all the stages in Parliament until it was passed. The only thing missing was presidential assent. You expect this to start afresh, correct?
Absolutely.
So
So
there'll be
we are
public
hoping
hearings
that
again.
today, on the order paper, it was advertised. And so I hope that maybe later this week or early next week, we should be able to take it. And so we go through the process as to how a bill will have to be passed in Parliament. I do not see the commitment of the NDC government or even the majority side of Parliament to take this through a certificate of agency. I do not see that. However, as I said, I am saying that irrespective of how slow that it may be, for us on the minority side, argument, we will press home the traditional values of this country, we will press home the cultural values of this country and make sure that the LGBTQ is passed, which I know that it is in consonance with the aspirations of all religious bodies in this country.
And so for clarity, you expect memos again, you expect public hearings all over again.
Well, I think that there might not be anything really new because we've gone through this over and over and again. I mean, we might have people who would want to, as it were, share their opinions as to the content of the bill as we speak. But by and large, and largely, you can clearly see that whatever is in there almost reflect whatever we had in the previous bill that was passed. We hope that there will be some amount of unanimity around the table as far as the majority and the minority is concerned, so that we'll be able to pass this bill, so that persons who are interested in this passage, for example, the CSOs, religious bodies, and the ordinary Ghanaian, would see that indeed, as politicians, we are very consistent with our words.
And very quickly on the other subject, and I know you've been in court many times on the removal of the Chief Justice. You know that she is back in court. One of the reliefs she's seeking is that the court stops the vetting or consideration of Baffoe-Bonnie, the acting CJ now. You were in Parliament today. The Speaker of Parliament, nonetheless, has referred the nomination to the Appointments Committee. You think Parliament can proceed whilst that case still pends?
First and foremost, we should be able to understand that the independence of the judiciary and as to how it is supposed to be guaranteed will need a certain kind of commitment from any person who is so desired under the Constitution to do so. And so it's a bold step that has been taken by the former Chief Justice, except to say that it seems that in the minds of the people who orchestrated her removal cannot even wait to see her back, because I think today or yesterday I saw a release from the presidency that was signed by the Honorable Felix Fosu-Kwakye, where the president intended to meet the CJ, the Auditor General, and the Attorney General, and all that. You could clearly see that in that letter, the president referred to Baffoe-Bonnie as a CJ. As we speak, I do not think that we have a Chief Justice, but in that official letter, he was referred to as a CJ. It clearly suggests, or it clearly depicts to me that certain persons have had some intent in terms of this orchestration. We've said this over and over. In fact, as part of one of the affidavits that I sent to court when I filed my case in court, you remember, I catalogued the intent of the NDC, the intent of President Mahama, intent of certain persons who are even not in government as to how they would want to remove the Chief Justice and see her back. It has played out. But I am of the firm belief that it is within her right to make sure that this judicial review is taken. It does not in any way come out as an appeal, as people are trying to suggest. It is not. It is within the supervisory jurisdiction of the High Court and the Supreme Court, but in this circumstances, the High Court, to be able to hear the matter so that the High Court can pronounce on as to whether whatever transpired during the Poorman Committee was right or not.
Thank you very much. That there is Vincent Okosafor. He is MP for Old Tafo. And I quickly want to bring in Moses Foh-Amoaning. He's Executive Secretary of the National Coalition for Proper Human Sexual Rights and Family Values. But Afo, thanks for time here on Newsnight. The last time this was before Parliament, it was quite a tough process for you and the likes who wanted this passed until it was passed. And then you also faced us heddle with the president basically refusing to sign it into law. Do you expect this now in this new parliament to be a walk in the park?
Hi, Evan. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Well, I'm going to be on European Express. I am giving you my full story. But tomorrow or whatever date that you think is appropriate, let's get it on, as we say it in Boston.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that. You expect it to be a breeze, a walk in the park?
Well, I think about it, a walk in the park. You know, the experiences that we've had indicates that some entrenched forces that are against Ghana. And so I'm not going to say it's going to be a walk in the park. You know, let me give you one or two reasons why. You know, the current president, before he became president, was very keen on having this law plan. Well, the former president had all the opportunity to pass it when the injunction was struck out on the 18th of December. He didn't do it. So the bill lapsed. Now, when the Catholic Bishops' Conference paid a visit to this current president in January, he assured order that he even wants the bill to be a public bill brought by his attorney general. And I totally agree with him, because a private member's bill has got technical deficiencies that could open the bill up for questioning. For example, the whole issue of cost. Because as you know, Article 107 and the bringing of private members' bill is predicated on the fact that there will be no surcharge on the public tax. And the argument that had been made, which was made before the Supreme Court, but was never dealt with on its merits, was that, investigations, trial, incarceration was going to impose the cost, and that the care, treatment, and support, which was critical to giving the bill a certain, practical balance, was also going to impose the cost. You understand what I'm saying? So if you bring a private member's bill, it still is going to suffer from these deficiencies. And I would have hoped that this current government would have fulfilled this promise of bringing it to the Attorney General. I've had some conversations with the current Attorney General. Indeed, I tried to call him this morning. And all that he told me in September was that he wanted to have a chat with these private, MPs who were trying to bring the private members' bill, because it had been indicated to him by the Speaker that you couldn't have both the public bill and the private member. Naturally, you couldn't have both there. So he wanted to have a discussion so he could withdraw the private members' bill, and then the public bill would be brought. So I would have prepared a public bill to the Attorney General, because that would be reflective of the will of all Ghanaians.
And from that conversation you had with the Attorney General, did you get the confidence that it's something that they would do? As in, once you agree to withdraw this, they will bring the public bill in?
Well, Dominic is a very good friend of mine, and I'm not going to read any, negative intent. But the forces around are very strong. And so I don't know what is controlling him and what the president is going to say, but I trust the current president and I trust the Attorney General, and I believe that once the discussion takes place, then it will be brought. I have no reason to doubt them now, but we want to be very cautious. And when I say we, I mean all the heads of the churches and those who are members of the coalition. We want to be very cautious.
And it's interesting that you use the word caution, because this current government, when they were in opposition, they supported this till they helped. They backed it, the entire party then, including its MPs in Parliament, even the opposition at the time backed it. Now they have not only a supermajority. I was calling it today when I was talking to my colleague. They have an excess supermajority because they have one surplus, and the only thing they can do in Parliament right now is to change Moses Foh-Amoaning to a woman and a woman to Moses Foh-Amoaning. So basically, you shouldn't be using words like caution.
They go to the medical people and the LGBT transgender care. They can do that, you know.
I mean, but bottom line, you shouldn't be using words like caution. You should be sleeping easy that this is going to be passed.
Well, the thing is that we know the forces. Thankfully, the biggest force was from America. And if you see what President Trump has done, he's changed the whole of the landscape. And a lot of the scientific truth, which we were articulating here, he's put it out there. That a man is a man and a woman is a woman. He's passed an executive order to that effect. When he shut down the U.S. aid, he exposed a lot of the funding which was being used by the progressive and the left-wing Biden administration to sponsor LGBT activities all over the world. We have the data on Ghana. Very soon I'm going to release the data on who was paid what and why things were not happening in Ghana. That's why I thought we're cautiously optimistic, because there's a lot of flash money that was backing LGBTQ plus activities in Ghana, through MPs, through politicians, through the clergy, even through journalists. I'm not saying you're a part of it because you're a big guy, but trust me, there's a lot of flash funds feeding into the whole environment to make sure that this bill is never passed. So if we say we're cautiously optimistic, we're happy about it. But even higher than that, let me give you what we have done. We have actually presented proposals to the Constitutional Review Committee, headed by Professor Kempe, for a constitutional amendment, which will ensure that we amend Article 12 and Article 17 to make it clear that Ghana does not admit of LGBT rights as part of its human rights regime, but that if people need help, then they could be given the care, treatment, and support. We have drafted that particular constitutional amendment, and we have given it to Professor Kempe. We have copied the President, we copied the Attorney General, and everybody who matters. So even beyond a legislative change, we're looking at a constitutional change.
Wow, that's fascinating indeed. Always a delight talking to you, Moses Foh-Amoaning, Executive Secretary, National Coalition for Proper Human Sexual Rights and Family Values. Now, where do you stand on this new bill? It's a new bill because it's a new parliament. It's now been, as from what I understand, and we've heard tonight, the lead sponsor says they are very confident that they can get it passed. It was listed today on the order paper. It wasn't laid just yet. We just heard from Moses Foh-Amoaning that they've already begun conversations with the Attorney General. The government itself should bring it in as a public bill instead of a private member's bill. Share your thoughts with me. 055 111 997. Still to come here on News Night. Apart from hearing your thoughts on the program, we're hearing from that push tonight on a subject of revolutionary shift in judicial accountability, with demand for cases of judicial misconduct to be decided by ordinary citizens and not judges.
If your Chief Justice does this particular type of thing, would you still have confidence in her as the person to lead the justice system? And for me, we should make all of those people lay people.
We hear from renowned lawyer Thaddeus Sory, but is former Attorney General Godfrey Dame living in his head rent-free?
He lives in my mind.
Rent-free.
Indeed. He's my junior one. Why would I...
Does he though?
Yeah?
Does he live in your mind rent-free?
God forbid that. Better things in my mind. I don't wake up to think about any lawyer, less him. Why would I be occupied with Godfrey?
Well, James Ashan is here with business, and James, that reminded you of a particular song.
Yes, rent-free. That's Jackie.
Jackie, you know your music. Exactly. When you said it, I was just rushing to see if I can pull it up from the music library, and maybe it deserves to be played. I'll find it for you. I'll play it before you exit. What do you have in the headlines of business?
Also coming up in business this evening, government overall budget deficit stood at 1.4% of GDP in first 7 months of 2025 and government to borrow 75.7 billion cedis in the fourth quarter of this year through treasury bills. Business News on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all office essentials, Syntex tanks, and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal. Welcome back. My name is James Ishen. We settle for the details. Now, the government overall budget deficit on a cash basis for the 7 months of 2025 stood at 19.7 billion Ghana cedis, representing 1.4% of gross domestic product. This was less than the targeted deficit of 37.8 billion Ghana cedis. The following report has more.
According to the Bank of Ghana, the overall deficit was financed from both domestic and external sources. The government borrowed on a net basis 14.8 billion cedis from domestic sources and relied on a net foreign financing of 4.9 billion cedis. The corresponding primary balance for the period showed a surplus of 0.7% of GDP against a target deficit of 1.0% of GDP. Additionally, the primary balance on a commitment basis showed a surplus of 1.0% of GDP against a target surplus of 0.5% of GDP. The net effect of the government's fiscal operations resulted in fiscal deficit outturns, both on commitment and cash basis, lower than the target for the period, consistent with the government's budgetary consolidation objectives in the 2025 budget, as well as underlying fiscal anchor.
And there was a news desk report. Now, the Bank of Ghana is set to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Ghana cedi from Tuesday, October 28. The celebration will see the central bank roll out a number of events to highlight the economic significance of the Ghana cedi. The following report has more.
As part of activities to mark the 60th anniversary of the cedi, there will be a national launch ceremony at the Accra International Conference Center with President John Mahama as the special guest of honor. The launch will be live on Joy FM, the Joy News channel, and all social media platforms of Joy. In addition to the celebrations, there will also be a cedi van regional roadshow, exhibitions, education and outreach, as well as public education campaigns on clean note handling, currency security features, and history of the currencies since independence. In addition, the Bank of Ghana will organize currency conference featuring stakeholders from central banks across the world, academia, and the private sector. The Bank of Ghana has said the cedi at 60th anniversary presents a strategic opportunity to reflect on 6 decades of monetary sovereignty, engage the public on the history and feature of the currency, and promote pride in Ghana's financial and cultural identity. It is also an occasion to strengthen policy literacy, promote the bank's clean note campaign, and inspire the next generation to appreciate and protect the integrity of the cedi.
Don't miss the launch of the cedi at 60 celebration next week, Tuesday. President John Mahama will be the special guest of honor, and it will be live on all Joy platforms. Now, the second deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana, Matilda Asante, is urging commercial banks to strengthen ethics, collaboration, and cyber security in their operations. Speaking at a stakeholder engagement in Accra, she revealed that complaints from customers to the bank rose by 7% this year and called on banks to handle grievances with empathy, speed, and professionalism.
From our data, complaints to the Bank of Ghana escalated from 695, thankfully it wasn't too much, in 2023 to 743 in 2024. That's almost 7% increase. We believe that these instances could have been handled at the institutional level, giving a little more interest and care and attention to detail. You might not have the answer, but I'm sure within that institution, somebody else in another department will have the answer. So how do we collaborate internally to make sure that we're providing the service that is required?
Matilda Asante is the second deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana. Now, the government of Ghana has planned to borrow 75.700 billion Ghana cedis via the treasury market in the final quarter of 2025. Out of this, 8.12 billion Ghana cedis will be fresh funds. About 67 billion Ghana cedis will be used to roll over maturing funds. The following report has more.
According to Data Bank research, majority of the funds will come from the 91-day treasury bills, which continue to dominate the short-term securities market. Meanwhile, the last Treasury bill auction underscored soft market sentiment, clearing 55.5% below the 6.5 billion cedis target. Investors tendered a modest 2.9 billion cedis in bids, of which 2.8 billion cedis was accepted, leaving a marginal 36.4 million rejected by the Treasury.
And that was a business desk report, ending the business news on Newsnight with me, James Ishan Evans.
James, thank you very much. It's still live here on Newsnight. It's on Joy 99.7 FM. We'll be hearing from Thaddeus Sory pretty shortly, who tonight has been advocating for a radical shift in judicial accountability, demanding that ordinary citizens and not judges should decide the fate of judges who are accused of misconduct. We'll hear from him pretty shortly. And we'll ask the question if, as you may have already heard, if Godfrey Dame is living in his head.
He lives in my mind.
Rent-free.
Indeed. He's my junior one. That's why would I...
That's he though.
Yeah?
Does he live in your mind rent-free?
God forbid that. Better things in my mind. I don't wake up to think about any lawyer, but less him. Why would I be occupied with Godfrey?
Details of that ride after Daniel Cranton is done with sports. Hello, Daniel. You love that music?
I love it. I absolutely
love the music, yes.
Evans, the
Talk to me.
Champions League continues tonight. Arsenal are taking on Atletico Madrid. Arsenal have won 2 out of 2 so far in this season's Champions League without conceding a goal. Atletico Madrid, they lost to Liverpool in their opening game but bounced back to beat Frankfurt in match day 2. Commentary will be live on Hits 103.9 FM. At 7 p.m. In other stories, the Inspector General of Police, Christian Tete Yono, has assumed control over investigations into Sheikh Toure, the Senegalese teenage goalkeeper who died in Kumasi last week. A statement signed by the Director of Public Relations at the Ghana Police Service, ACP Grace Ansah Krofi, indicated that a special team of homicide investigated forensic experts and intelligence officers have been deployed by the IGP. My colleague Victor Achutamaklo has more.
So this was first confirmed by the Senegalese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who alleged that the deceased was a victim of a network of scams and extortionist team that unfortunately could not get the ransom that they were looking for, and then he died. But in the last 24 hours, thanks to the IGP, we are also learning that one individual who called himself Issa had told the police in his earlier testimony that the deceased suffered an accident, the nature of which was not specified. And so all of these issues need to be unpacked, especially because the Senegalese Ministry of Foreign Affairs themselves did not put a lot of flesh on the allegations that he came here on the invitation of a team posing as scouts who had offered him a trial opportunity at a football club. The details of that appear very scanty. It is because of that the IGP has put together a forensic team and also a team of individuals who are specialists at investigating homicide cases. So they will unpack the issues and get to the bottom of it, whether or not it has any ties to football at all, if there were any football clubs involved, and the so-called accidents that this Issa has claimed took place somewhere last week when he deposited the body at the Ebenezer morgue in Tafo. So that is essentially the mandate of what the team put together by the IGP is going to do from here on.
That's a sports desk report. Bringing that into sports. Back to you, Evans.
Edna, thank you very much. It's still live here on Newsnight. And a few of your messages on our WhatsApp console. Francis in Accra says, for MPP and its MPs, if it's about them, then it's good, but others is bad. Even the defense of the removed former Chief Justice, the least said about them, it says, the better. The question is, what is their fare? Or they think as they were using the CJ judiciary for their political gain against Ghanaians, JM and his NDC will do same. Musa Abatua says, what at all has former Chief Justice Dr. What at all is he seeking? To frustrate the process of vetting new CJ. Similar constitutional procedures have been used before, so her resistance appears unjustified. And Nana on the Spinters Road says, Mr. Trump will be happy with Ghana if we pass the LGBTQ law. We must be ready to face Europe, though. His thoughts there on the subject. Now, there's a push tonight for a revolutionary shift in judicial accountability, with calls for a constitutional amendment that will see ordinary citizens, not judges, decide the fate of judges accused of misconduct. Renowned lawyer Thaddeus Sory has been championing this on PM Express in the wake of the removal of former Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo.
Remember that the very first constitutional provision of the Constitution on the judiciary says justice emanates from the people. So the people have a particular expectation of you. Can you say that, right in the Constitution, if the Chief Justice gets drunk whilst in office, that's a stated misbehavior? If she decides that she would call the registrar of a court, can you set all of that out? That's not possible. So that is why you have a committee made up of 3 lay people, because justice emanates from the people. That if your Chief Justice does this particular type of thing, would you still have confidence in her as the person to lead the justice system? And for me, we should make all of those people lay people.
Lay people, he says. Martin Kpebu is a lawyer too, joins us on the line. Martin, you agree?
Evans, there's nothing wrong with it in principle. There's nothing wrong with it in principle. I'm just one person. He has, Thaddeus Sory has put it out there. I think we should debate it further. Since I heard it this afternoon, I've been busy. I don't think I've had much time to reflect. But one thing is certain, that it doesn't go against any principle. And matter of fact, let's look at this. We use the jury for murder trials. Even though it was just recently we reduced murder from a death penalty to life sentence. But even life sentence is very hefty. It's quite a draconian punishment. So what I mean is that since we use lay citizens to help us do murder trials, they act as jurors, etc., which are very serious cases, there is nothing wrong in principle if we brought these same citizens to act as the only persons in an Article 146 proceedings. There's nothing wrong, because, as I've said, we use citizens for more serious offenses. So let's debate it further. I like the word you use. You say a revolutionary shift. Yes, since it's a complete shift, it means that let's have a thorough, because, sometimes we don't understand the history of certain things, and then we take certain actions, and then later we saw that, maybe we rushed. So I'm saying that let's do it on it. Let's bring more minds to the table, and then we can go on with it. If the majority of the citizenry, or from the debates, you can discern that the majority of the citizens are in favor.
And it's a fascinating proposition, though. I mean, but you just pointed the issue out there. He references the same constitution to make his case that if justice emanates from the people, then it is reason that when a judge has been accused of wrongdoing, that the people then decide that judge's fate. But you have to go back to the framers of this original constitution. There's a reason why they had crafted it the way it had been crafted. If you look at that original case, you think that it's time to review it? And broke, don't fix it. Is it broke?
Currently, to be honest, I think the way the citizenry are getting more enlightened and getting more politically active, I can foresee a situation where in no time we'll have, I don't mean it negatively, but when I say an epidemic of petitions for removal of judges, electoral commissioners, etc., all those who are subject to Article 146 proceedings, I can see that as citizens get more active, there's going to be an increase. So about 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, it occurred to me that if we are not careful, in no time, we'll have many Supreme Court judges bogged down with such petitions. And then it means we won't have enough. I say many because relative to the size of the Supreme Court, conventionally, we use 15. If you read the GBA case versus Attorney General, etc., some even in the case they mention 14, but some legal commentators have said when they mention 14 in that case, they excluded the Chief Justice. So if you add the Chief Justice, we use 15. So Evans, using Article 146, if we have 3 petitions at once for removal of 3 Supreme Court, even not Supreme Court, for 3 Superior Court justices. That's High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court. So if we have 3, it means that straight away, you are going to have, if it's a High Court judge, then in that case, you are going to have 3 Supreme Court justices involved. If it's a Supreme Court judge that's involved, then 2. So what I mean is that Ghana currently, if we have 3 petitions for the removal of 3 Superior Court justices, we'll have a crisis in the Supreme Court because we would need, if we have 3 panels, so we are talking about not less than 7 Supreme Court justices involved in Article 146 proceedings. So if you remove 7 Supreme Court justices to do Article 146 proceedings, you'll be left with 8 Supreme Court justices. Then you are in trouble. Yes, Lawyer Sory has something to say, even though he didn't mention expressly, but in terms of the numbers, because trust me, you know, as we speak now, there is a petition for the removal of the EC chair. Yep. It's not been dealt with, right? Yep. And then also, you see that there's a petition for the removal of Justice Kulendi. So do you see that if, I'm saying if, that's if the threshold is crossed and there has to be a hearing, so you are talking about how many? 5 Supreme Court justices who will be away. If you take 5 from their numbers, that's a lot relatively.
Indeed it is. And thank you very much, Martin. This is definitely a suggestion that I'm pretty sure will be debated. And it comes at a time when the Constitutional Review Committee is already working. And so they get to consider this too. But let's stay with Thaddeus for a second, because he has, over the last few months, clashed with former Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame publicly over the removal of the former Chief Justice. They have both traded scathing articles in several social media posts. In one case, Godfred Dame claimed that he lives in Thaddeus Sory's head rent-free. I put that to him.
We passed that stage with Godfred and so many things.
Have you made peace with him?
Oh, we haven't met, but mutual friends of ours have said, look, you know, maybe you guys think you are just entertaining the public, but it doesn't look good.
So the people mediated?
Not really a mediation. I have, you know, everybody has somebody they will respect. And some of them call me and say, look, it's okay. It's not necessary. Don't rise again.
Was he also engaged?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know if he was engaged. But there were times when I've said good things about him. In fact, what he said was false. In fact, I don't know why he even said it, that, oh, they have a band of NDC lawyers. Did I take my law certificate from the NDC law school? I'm practicing my law. If you are not happy about it, if you are not happy with it, that's your problem. Yeah. But so that was completely nonsensical. But that's not something I want to respond to.
So your relationship, how would you describe your relationship with him now?
I haven't met him. Right? For me, it's cordial. There's no engagement I'll have with you that I hold personal. In fact, beyond this place, when we live here, you have your friends you go to. I have my friends I will go to. So if we have a disagreement here, I don't carry it beyond the studio. So I don't have a problem with Godfred. I mean, I've done cases with him. I think I granted an interview to KSM also, in which I commended him for something he did in court. What? There was a motion I was supposed to move for bail. I told him that if he's the Minister for Justice, I will move that application for bail. He has to move it. And in all candor, he got up and said, look, he would not oppose bail for my clients.
Who is this? What's this?
Collins Dowda.
Okay, Collins.
And that was an NDC man. Or that is an NDC man. So I commended him for it. So as long as I disagree with you, even if you're my friend, you should understand that it's on grounds of principle. As a person, what do I have to hate Godfred Dame for?
And Godfred Dame says, I live in your mind rent-free.
That was, I don't want to use that. He lives in my mind.
Rent-free.
Indeed. He's my junior one. Why would I...
Does he though?
Yeah?
Does he live in your mind rent-free?
God forbid that. Better things in my mind. I don't wake up to think about any lawyer, and that's less him. Why would I be preoccupied with Godfred? Why? Because he was Attorney General.
He was, yes.
Of course. And there will be plenty after him.
It's Thaddeus Sory speaking to me on PMX. If you want to catch the full interview, it's across our social media platforms, and so catch it. And by the way, talking about competition and rent-free. Some are already being evicted because they can't pay their rent, apparently, at the National Science and Maths Quiz. And Jackie's joining me quickly with an update. Jackie, what's the latest? Hello, Jackie. Okay, well, you want to catch the latest. It's up on many social media platforms, by the way. And my school, St. Thomas Aquinas, did great today, walloping everybody else in line. Oh, there's a lady here who's smiling at me. I haven't even mentioned her school, but she's coming up with Geek Squad.
Please don't mention my school.
Oh, why? You should be proud of your school.
I'm very proud of my school, but not when it comes